Good evening. It's very good to be able to address our American community in Armenia again. It has been some time since our last virtual town hall. And in fact, I think this is our maybe our ninth virtual town hall overall since the pandemic started. But I hope that even though it's been a while since we have had one of these, that our community has been able to stay safe and healthy. For today's town hall, we will not have interpretation. So if there are topics that I cover for some of our citizens who still feel that they need some clarification, please do not hesitate to reach out to our American Citizen Services Office, and I'll be providing that contact information as we move along through the town hall. And you can reach out there to on any subject that I've raised for clarification or for interpretation. You know, before I talk about the pandemic, I just want to acknowledge this has just been a really difficult 9 months. First the pandemic, and then the conflict. And I know that for so many American citizens in Armenia, this is a place where there are many family members and friends, and that people are hurting very much, whether suffering from the pandemic or from the impacts of the conflict. And this is just something we certainly feel here at the embassy, where we have many local staff who were also affected by both the pandemic, but also very much by the conflict. What I also want to note, and I think many of you, as you're following the news about the pandemic, have seen that as we have moved from fall into winter, and with many countries around the world grappling with the second, and even in some cases, the third wave of the coronavirus, that there is also some positive news now, that we are getting some hope on the horizon with the information that we're getting about the availability of a vaccine. And of course, many of you may have seen even yesterday in the UK, they began administering the first doses there. So hopefully, at least we are turning the corner on the pandemic as we go into 2021. Of course, here in Armenia, as I noted, many hardships because of the conflict in Nagorno-Karabakh, as well as the pandemic. The United States, as a Minsk Group co-chair, is remaining engaged in order to help support finding a sustainable political solution to the conflict, and supporting Armenia's efforts to address the humanitarian challenges from the conflict. We are available to assist U.S. citizens who may have been impacted, and encourage you to reach out to our American Citizen Services team if that is the case. And as this challenging year comes to a close, our consular section continues to operate on a limited posture. That said, we have and will continue to provide services and support to U.S. citizens now and in the new year. If you have any questions, please reach out to our American Citizen Services team via email at acsyerevan@state.gov. That's ACS all one word, no spaces, at state.gov, or call 374-10-49 374-45-85. That's 374-10-49-45-85. And as I said, this is also the contact information if you need to have some help with interpretation on any topic I touch on today. We did receive some questions in advance of the town hall, but also you can submit questions via the chat function, and I will certainly try to get to as many of those as we can. As many of you know, while Armenia lifted its state of emergency related to the coronavirus in September, that has not meant that the pandemic is over. Not here in Armenia, not in the United States, not in many places around the world. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention recently updated their COVID-19 risk assessment by country. Armenia was updated from a level 3 to a level 4, which is a very high risk. At this point in the pandemic, nearly all the countries in the world, including the United States, have been similarly designated as a level 4 risk factor or risk for COVID-19, an indicator that we should continue to take this pandemic very seriously and that we should continue to maintain good public health practices, social distancing, wearing masks, and washing our hands frequently. With that in mind, the embassy continues to update its COVID-19 information page daily, providing current case numbers, information about entry and exit restrictions, health and safety, travel, and other issues. We also continue to update our health and safety precautions and procedures to keep embassy employees and visitors safe. Thus, as we continue to provide appointments for U.S. citizens, we have made some changes to our procedures to keep you and your family safe when visiting the embassy. First and foremost, we ask that you wear a face mask when you come for your appointment and encourage you to use the hand sanitizer, which is available in our waiting area. We also ask that you arrive 5 to 10 minutes before your appointment time to allow time to go through security. I also encourage everyone to please do your best to be on time for your appointment, to maintain proper social distancing in our waiting room in accordance with State Department protocols and CDC guidelines. Our American Citizen Services appointments are spaced out to ensure minimal contact in our waiting area. That's why arriving on time is crucial to keep everyone safe and socially distanced. And if you arrive more than 15 minutes late, you will be asked to reschedule your appointment. In addition to keeping safe and healthy when visiting the embassy, we want to make sure you are informed and aware of some of the public health considerations when you are looking at whether to travel over the holiday period. As the holiday season approaches and is really upon us in many ways, I know that many of our citizens have questions about flights. Currently, several international carriers are operating regular flights in and out of Yerevan. This includes Qatar Airways, Air France, Fly Dubai, Belavia, the Belarusian Airlines, Aeroflot, and Middle Eastern Airlines. Austrian Airways also announced it will resume flights from Yerevan to Vienna 3 times a week starting December 17th. Many airlines now are requiring a negative COVID-19 test and face masks on board. Please check with your airline early to ensure that you are aware of the requirements for boarding. If you test positive for COVID-19, you will probably not be able to board and will need to find a location to quarantine in Armenia until you recover. Many countries also continue to maintain different restrictions on transit and entry due to COVID-19. Please ensure you check the relevant restrictions for each country you intend to transit and travel to before departing. The The U.S. Embassy in each country maintains a COVID-19 page, which includes entry and exit information and other relevant information related to COVID-19 for that country. I also want to flag that the CDC recently updated its quarantine guidelines. While the CDC suggests a 14-day quarantine following travel or potential exposure as the safest option, it also recognizes that based on local circumstances, those exposed to COVID-19 could be released from quarantine after 10 days if symptoms do not develop, or 7 days if the travel or exposure is followed by a negative COVID test. I want to emphasize that while those are the CDC guidelines, the government of Armenia still requires a 14-day quarantine following contact with someone who has tested positive for COVID-19, and I encourage everyone to abide by local restrictions and requirements to protect public health. For those of you remaining in Armenia over the holiday season, I want to wish you and your family well. Observing social distancing at holiday times is very difficult, but as my own mother told me with this holiday season, she said, I want to be sure that I'm around for future holidays. And so I can say in my own case, and I think this is the case with many, many families, they have foregone large gatherings of family and friends, kept it small, and because we want to be around for future holidays. Please also stay alert and vigilant when you are traveling to the United States, if you decide to do that for the holidays, or within Armenia. I also want to reiterate that the embassy continues to remain open, and I, along with my staff, are here to help and assist. Let me also remind you again of some of the resources that we have before we turn to the question and answer session. The U.S. Embassy webpage provides information on COVID-19, as well as a list of alerts sent to U.S. citizens. You can also find additional travel information at travel.state.gov. That's travel.state.gov. And for health-specific guidance, please check the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention webpage. And as you all know, I continue to encourage U.S. citizens traveling in Armenia to enroll in STEP Smart Traveler Enrollment Program. This allows us to provide information via email and text message, and crucially, allows us to reach you in an emergency. That's the Smart Traveler Enrollment Program, and you can find that also on our webpage if you need more information. So let me turn now to the questions that we've received in advance of the town hall. The first is, are there any plans to vaccinate U.S. citizens abroad for COVID-19, and will the U.S. Embassy in Yerevan provide the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine to U.S. citizens residing in Armenia? So discussions in the United States as to how the vaccine will be distributed and administered, and the development of plans to do so, are ongoing. As those plans take shape, private U.S. citizens living abroad should look into credible vaccine options in their country of residence, or consider traveling back to the United States to receive a vaccine once more specific plans are announced. So let me reinforce that. The U.S. Embassy is not going to be administering vaccines to private U.S. citizens in Armenia. Your options will be either to access the vaccine locally through the local healthcare system here, or travel back to the United States in order to obtain the vaccine. The next question is, Is it currently safe for U.S. citizens to travel to and stay in Yerevan considering the recent conflict, or should travel be reconsidered at this time? At this time, Armenia remains at a travel level warning 3 on travel.state.gov, the same level it was before the conflict. I encourage you to follow local news, check the information on our embassy webpage about conditions in Armenia, and sign up for our alerts via the STEP enrollment program, and use that information to make informed travel choices that are best for you and your personal circumstances. I think the only other point I would make here is that um, uh, while we have had a cessation of hostilities, there is still um, a number of questions and activities surrounding the um, November 10th statement that Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Russia signed. And there are international borders that are being reestablished. And so I think it's very important to keep that in mind, that these reestablished international borders need to be respected, but they may not always be marked at this point in time. And so it's very important to be, I think, cautious, and you can check in here at the embassy as well as you get closer to travel. We are not in charge of demarcating maps, but it is very clear that there is, a lot in motion because of the conclusion of the conflict and the agreement that has, as I said, reestablished some of these international borders. And so people need to be very, very mindful of that. Let's see. I think that's all that we received in terms of actual questions submitted in advance. So let me check with my moderator, Leah Miller, and see if we have any questions on the chat function.
We do.
Okay.
The first question is asking for us to comment about the safety of traveling to the NK region. This person is saying that they're nervous about entering areas under the protection of Russian peacekeepers.
So this is an area where, again, I would note that it's very important to, I think, proceed very cautiously. This is an area where hostilities have just ceased. We're only just a month since the end of the fighting. And the Russian peacekeepers are now largely in place. But again, these are all activities and arrangements that are just being put into place. And so I think we don't even have, complete information or a complete picture on all of the circumstances. And as I noted, there are areas now where Azerbaijani authorities are retaking control of territory as a result of the November 10th statement. But this is still those arrangements and how the Azerbaijani authorities are positioning themselves is also still, there's a lot to be still learned, still understood. Many places where we don't have a lot of good information at this point. So I would urge great caution in proceeding. Obviously, there are humanitarian needs in Nagorno-Karabakh. The United States is very engaged in trying to help support the humanitarian the needs, not just in Nagorno-Karabakh, but also in Armenia. We are working through, in Nagorno-Karabakh, through the International Committee of the Red Cross and through other partners here inside Armenia to help those who've been affected by the conflict. But it's there's not a lot of outside traffic going to Nagorno-Karabakh right now. It's mostly residents and those who are helping with humanitarian assistance.
Okay, the next question is saying, maybe Ellen may want to answer this, but we'll give it to you first. This person is saying that they have been told by other Americans who have been here beyond their allowable time that they only have to pay 50,000 dram fine when they do decide to leave, and they'd like us to confirm if that information is accurate.
So I hope that if you couldn't hear Leah, there's a question in the chat function about what time is allowed, what the rules are with respect to staying in Armenia. So I'm going to turn to Ellen Scholl, our wonderful American Citizen Services officer, who is off camera and masked. So we're going to be careful. She's just going to speak off camera to answer that question.
Thank you for the question. The MFA has a consular section. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Armenia has a consular section that I would first refer people to with questions about the length of time one can stay in Armenia, visa questions, and related fees. That said, we will look into it. I do not know offhand the exact fee that is required if one overstays or stays beyond the allotted amount of time, but that's something our ACS team can check on. So to whoever posed the question, thank you for that. Please do send us an email and we can follow up with you, and would also recommend that you follow up with and ask that question to the Government of Armenia's MFA, to their consular section.
Yes, so thank you, Ellen. That's very important. Of course, we try to maintain some of this information, but the final authority on this topic is the Government of Armenia. But I think Ellen's point about to our questioner, please send this question also via email. That's acsyerevan@state.gov, so that we can make sure we've responded to you directly with whatever information we can provide or to help steer you to the right Armenian websites or authorities for additional information.
The same person who just asked that question also just wanted to share a comment that he notes that the STEP program does not really function very effectively for Americans who actually live in Armenia. So I've asked him to maybe provide some feedback on his experience at ACS Yerevan. And so he said he would, and then we have another question.
Oh, well, let me, before you go to that,
Sure.
let me say thank you to our participant who brought that to our attention. Please do follow up with our ACS section, because obviously if you're hitting a glitch and you feel like you're not getting information, but that you had enrolled in STEP, we want to know. So thank you for that, and please follow up. We'll try to take a look at what the problem is. Okay, Leah, what's the next question?
The next one, this may be case specific, but it seems general, so you can assess that. It says, I have a 1-year-old US citizen child and my wife is not a citizen. I want my child out of Armenia, but because of the age, he needs his mom. Can I travel with my family to the US?
I think this is the kind of question where I would really encourage you to use the ACS Yerevan at state.gov, because there may be some other factors that we need to clarify with you to be able to give you good advice. And I don't want to steer you wrong, nor does Ellen. So what I would ask is if you could follow up with an email to ACS Yerevan at state.gov. We'll try to get a little more detail and then try to advise you as best we can.
The next question is, can you please comment on the mood of Armenia in these challenging days? I have not been back since the start of the war.
Well, I think, as you can imagine, there's a very somber mood here right now. Um, we are seeing um, that families are still being notified of deaths. We have an ongoing detainee issue that um, the embassy is certainly actively involved in trying to understand, as well as support efforts to resolve through exchanging Armenian detainees for Azerbaijani detainees. This is an area where the International Committee of the Red Cross is also active, and the Minsk Group co-chairs, not just the United States, but Russia and France also have over the years also taken an interest in this topic. But as you can imagine, this is a topic that has affected people very deeply here. And we're coming into the holiday period where normally it would be a time for families to gather, friends to gather, and there will be people who are missing. And so I think that's very much on people's minds right now. There's an aspect of life continuing, and I think that's very important. And one aspect of life continuing is doing everything we can to beat back this pandemic. I've been talking about the vaccine, but we don't have the vaccine yet. And Armenia has, after a really hard-fought summer where Armenia got the pandemic numbers down, and in early September was in a very good place. School started back, but then I think the real issue was the conflict started, and the numbers just skyrocketed. And at one point during the conflict, I think we were up at a 50% positivity rate. Thankfully, we have started to see the positivity rate come down. We've started to see the numbers of those recovering improving, which I think all helps take pressure off of the healthcare system. But there's still a ways to go. And so, as I said, this is the other issue that has really affected the mood here right now. But one thing that's really struck me throughout my time in Armenia has been how Armenia is a country of people who have thrived under challenges and adversity. And as hard as this time is, and I don't want to diminish that in any way, I have great confidence in the future of Armenia because of Armenians and because of the qualities that they have shown over the many years of persevering in the face of great adversity.
The next question, again, you two can decide. It's just saying, in the past, has it been easy to extend the 6 months initial Armenian tourist visa at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs?
Ellen, do you know the answer to that? Because I don't.
So this is another issue where really the jurisdiction and the decision-making process to extend those visas is really in the hands of the Armenian government, and it's the MFA consular section who makes those decisions and implements those decisions. So I don't want to comment on whether or not it was easy or difficult, and would rather refer you to consult with that consular section to get more information on their standard practices for extending tourist visas.
Yeah. If you, yes, again, final voice, final authority on visas for Armenia, that rests with the local authorities here. But ACS Yerevan at state.gov, if you're having trouble or you think that we can help clarify or point you to the right resource, you can reach out then to the consular section.
That was the last question.
So I understand this is we've gone through all the questions that are in the chat function, and I don't know, Ellen, if there is any other message for our American citizen community.
I think from the ACS team, we are here, we're in the office, we are available by phone and email, and we are here for appointments. So please do call us, email us with any question, query, concern, or thing that we can help with. We are here to serve, and wishing everyone a happy holiday season and time spent with friends and family and food and good health.
Let me just very strongly second what Ellen just said. This has been a very tough year. 2020 is not a year that I want to repeat, and I think probably most people feel that way. But I hope, even despite all of the circumstances, that people are able to find some joy, some comfort in being with, in some form or fashion, with family and friends. There are many ways to do that over the holidays. But let me wish everyone a very good holiday season, and hopefully a more peaceful and healthier 2021. So thank you again, and I look forward to addressing all of you again in the new year. Snora Kalutun.